and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
Hey, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer-Burnett.
And how y'all today?
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, which is the most important, is when we take your comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, or a question or an issue you'd like us to address on the show, there are two different ways you can submit. First of all, if you're one of the majority of people who watches this show later in the day when we're not live streaming, you can use our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. If you are somebody who is watching the show live, you can use the super chat feature in the live chat to send in your question. And whichever way you send in a question, as long as it's a question that we determine is appropriate to be addressed on the show, you'll hear it addressed in the next part of the show. All right, guys. With all that down, let's get things started with this, shall we? You know, in movies, Einstein's theory of relativity, I guess, comes into play. You know, you look at, this mug, and you hold it here, and it seems like a decent-sized mug. You hold it here, oh my God, it looks monstrous, or whatever. And I guess that comes into play in the movies. After all, there are some people out there who call the box office results of Avatar 3 disappointing and a flop and failure. Just to be clear, Avatar Fire and Ash is the number 15 biggest movie of all time. Of all time.
Trash. Yuck.
Yep.
Should have been top 10.
How can you even show your face
Mid.
in public, James Cameron?
It literally is in the mid of all earning movies of all time.
Hang your head in shame. But the reality is, it's still, even at close to $1.5 billion, made 1.4 and change, even at close to $1.5 billion, I mean, that is less than the other two. I mean, the first one is the highest grossing film of all time. The second one, I believe, hit $2 billion. So even though it is like the 15th largest film ever in the history of cinema and made, almost $1.5 billion, there are some people who look at that as a big disappointment. But if you're somebody at the studio like Disney, you do worry about a trend. You look at biggest of all time, not quite the biggest of all time, even less of that, and you think, how do we approach things moving forward? Well, like this article in the Wrap, Disney is kind of asking itself, which I have not put up yet. So let me correct that, because that's something we forgot to do before we started the show.
It's a dark void of nothingness.
That's what they say. Total dark void. Okay, so now you can see this article in the Wrap, that the folks at Disney want to look at it a little bit closer. It's not the same as it used to be, where if you want to do Avatar 4 and 5, it's not just handing over a blank check to James Cameron and say, do whatever you want to do with however much money it's going to cost to do it. Avatar 3 Fire and Ash was still wildly profitable for them. But still, it's no longer free reign. So there are two things that come out of this article in the Wrap that I found are interesting. Number one is, apparently, because the third one didn't do as well as the first two, James Cameron, according to a source they have, is like rabidly committed to getting 4 and 5 made now. It's almost like he's taking it as a challenge. Now, there was actually a really interesting quote from a source close to Cameron who said, if Avatar 3 made $2 billion, he might have done another film first before doing Avatar 4. Says, but now he wants to get right back on the horse. And apparently they shot like 20% of Avatar 4 already when they were shooting Avatar 3. So they're already on their way. But the more notable part of all this is that, according to the story, Disney is telling Cameron, we want you to do Avatars 4 and 5, but just two quick things. Number one, make it shorter. No more teasing with 3 hours. Let's tighten it up. Number two, let's rein in the budget a little bit. Now, I don't think they're going to him and saying, let's make Avatar 4 for $120 million or anything like that. But, maybe we don't get in the orbit of $350 million to make the movie. So they're asking him to shorten up the films and to bring in a budget that's more reasonable than the other two. That way, even if the trend continues where the box office declines, let's say Avatar 4 only makes $1.2 billion, the studio will be able to maintain its profit margin and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Rob, two interesting things out of this. Number one, apparently I hate using the word failure. The results of Avatar 3 not being as good as the first two has only motivated James Cameron more to really want to get 4 and 5 done. And secondly, the studio says, great, but we want the movies a bit shorter and we want to tighten up the budget about it. What are your first impressions of that?
Well, I mean, with these films in particular, length has a lot to do with how much they cost, because it's not just the physical production of the movies. They have to render these films. You know, they're rendering them at a high frame rate, and they have to render each frame more than once because of the 3D. So when you have a movie that's 3 hours and 15 minutes long, this movie was delayed a year simply because of render time. You know, it just takes forever to render what they're doing. So by cutting down the time, let's say they made them 2.5 hours, that would be a significant difference in budget in terms of how much these cost. And I mean, 2.5 hours, that's pretty good. You know, and if you had 2.5 hour movies, you save 90 minutes, you know, compared to the last movie, if they reach 2.5 hours, and that's going to bring down the budget considerably. And they already know what the stories are, I think. I mean, obviously, I had read, I don't know this for a fact, but that they were going to wind up back on Earth somehow. Like
those are the whispers. Those are the whispers, yeah.
And I would imagine, I mean, watching Fire and Ash, which I quite liked, it seems to me that the message of the film is that Awa, the goddess Awa of Pandora, might have been something that we have on Earth that we lost. We killed our Awa. And if the Na'vi somehow, that the people from Pandora could come to Earth and reignite Gaia, or whatever we want to call her, that would be an interesting end for this entire franchise. So I want to see these movies, John. But I think bringing down the budgets and bringing down the time is not a bad thing. You know, and since he's already shot some of Avatar 4, there you go. And he knows what he wants to do.
I want to put things in perspective a little bit here. You're mentioning render time. Let's say you took a top of the line Apple M5 processor. All right. If you had like the whole movie file of Avatar, Fire and Ash, and you needed now to render out all the effects in it using the top of the line today processor, an Apple M5, single just one, but an Apple M5. Rob, do you want to take a guess how long it would take that one M5 to render out Avatar, Fire and Ash?
I can't.
Take just a wild guess.
A year.
Okay, more. Take another guess.
2 years?
More. Take another one.
2.5 years?
More.
3 years.
I feel like the colon blow commercial. It would take
That's
you
a deep cut. I like it.
142,000 years. Let
Come
me
on.
repeat.
So you were getting
that.
close. You could have
You
just gone
mean
3.5.
at the file size that they would need, IMAX size?
Yep. It took 1.25 billion render hours. Now, obviously, they use massive
it was a render
farms
farm.
that
Right.
use much more than one single processor.
Well, there you go. And at that, I mean, imagine.
But and the power that takes.
I
too.
mean, that's
Oh,
insane.
the power that
And that's
insane.
why I was talking to a very high-ranking person at 20th Century Fox, who's a friend of mine, was explaining to me that the render issue is a huge. People don't understand it's a huge issue. And while they have to sit there and let it chatter away for.
Dude, I remember when I worked in a visual effects company. Some of you know that for a period of time I worked in a visual effects company, and we got, I believe the movie we were working on, I believe it was, well, maybe I shouldn't mention which movie it was. Okay, so anyway, we were working on a movie, okay? We were a smaller effects company that, like, a bigger effects company would get the contract and they would sub out some of the work to smaller little companies like ours. And the biggest thing for our timeline was always rendering. Because like you say, okay, you have 4 weeks to deliver this shot. That's great. But we understood we really had half of that.
Yeah.
Because the other time, and we had, kid you not, we had a server closet that me and the owner of the company were very proud that we put together a render farm, where we had 16 Pentium 4, Intel Pentium 4 processors, all grinding and spitting out that thing. Now, today it's like tens of thousands, but I mean, it can be big, and something like Avatar can be a lot. And you're right, even just cutting down the time, the length of the movie will drastically decrease your time to spit out the final product, but also resources and time and money and all that kind of stuff.
And that's just rendering.
Yeah.
And the thing about this is they're rendering 3D and they're rendering in IMAX. So
And do they need high frame rate?
you have to double up.
One
I don't know.
asks.
I like the high frame rate.
I hated
Only
it.
in this movie, though.
I didn't like it here either.
Yeah. I mean, I like them in all, but yeah, because but that's something people don't even, they're like, well, we have new computers. Doesn't it just render instantaneously?
Yeah, just use my
Nope.
MacBook Pro.
For stuff that I do here.
Yeah, right.
Sure it does. Anyway, guys, question is for you.
1,000 years.
What do you think about this? Do you think they're going to do Avatar 4 and 5? Apparently, James Cameron is more committed than ever to getting 4 and 5 done. They're just going to have to shorten it up a little bit and tighten up the budgets, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I liked Fire and Ash very much, but one of my critiques was it didn't need to be over 3 hours long. It didn't need to be the length that it was. I didn't feel. But anyway, whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. By the way, so this won't be in the segment, but I recently did an editorial video that I encourage you guys to go and check out. It's all about why do movie tickets cost so much and where does the money go? And normally, now I have, my main computer right now is a MacBook Pro with an M4 Max. That's a hefty machine. And normally when I'm doing the final render of the video, it usually renders at about 300 frames per second. So about 1 second of rendering for every 10 seconds of video, right? So I usually render out about 30 frames a second. So it renders 300 to 360 frames per second. Now, in that last video I did, I had a little animation where I had, for those of you who've seen the video, like a series of every year how price tickets have gone up. The price of movie tickets have gone up, like all the way from, I think, 2010 up to 2026. And had this little animation of a bar go up, and then the next year, the next bar go up, and the next year, the next. Very simple little animation. When I rendered out that video, when I finished all the edit and I did the render, it was flying along at 320, 340, 360 frames per second rendering, till it got to that simple little animation. And it instantly dropped to 20 frames per second, to 10 frames per second, to 4 frames per second, to 3 frames per second. And that was for this tiny little moving bar image in my video. I mean, again, I just throw that to you as an example of how radically that changes everything. But anyway, all right, guys. With that all down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, you know, one of my favorite shows of the past bunch of years has been The Boys. And, you know, I think if they nail the landing on the final season, I don't even think it's debatable. It's the best superhero show of all time, in my opinion. Granted, let's see what happens if The Penguin turns into an actual series and not just a limited series. But for now, I think The Boys is the best superhero show ever made. And it returned last night with episodes 1 and 2. And man, when I'm not going to go into spoilers here, but as we talked about on the show a few weeks ago, when Carl Urban came out and said, this season starts off with its foot to the floor, big major characters die, and it starts right from episode 1. All I can tell you is, man, he wasn't kidding. He was not kidding. I was, by the end of the episode of episode 1, there were 2 episodes. By the end of episode 1, my jaw was in my lap. I'm just like, oh, what? Like, I couldn't believe it. Even knowing that Carl Urban said, hey, big characters are going to die, even knowing that, my jaw was in my lap. I'm like, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And what is so great about The Boys is that none of the characters are the same way they were when we first met them in season 1. All of them have gone through evolutions. They're all still who they are at their core, but the events of the last, now getting into the 5th season, has clearly impacted them, sharpened them, eroded them. It's changed them. And you see that play out now right in episode 1 of season 5, that these characters are now the totality of all the experiences they've had in the previous 4 seasons. Now, I can tell you that the season picks up 1 year after the events of the end of season 4. So we've jumped forward a year. And just as we saw, like, Mother's Milk and Frenchie and Huey get arrested, they've been in a detention camp for a year. That's where we pick up. Starlight's still been out there. Of course, we saw Starlight a little bit in Gen V. And, you know, setting the stage. And also, we've seen the continuation of the deterioration of the state of Homelander. And can I just say, Anthony Starr continues to be the MVP of this series. Take nothing away from Carl Urban. Carl Urban in this show is dynamite, and he's really the heart of the show. But Anthony Starr, just in the first 2 episodes of season 5, this is saying something. He's the best he's ever been as Homelander. He's adding new elements of, like, Homelander's always been at his best when they've shown his frailty. You know, whenever they show glimpses of weaknesses in him, whether it's mental weaknesses or whatever, and they continue that. He's suffering these, he's coming face to face and confronting, he's understanding he's got these weaknesses, and then he tries to compensate that by over bravado, right? And that plays out amazingly in the first couple of episodes. I just thought, and then when you get into episode 2, just everything comes off the rails. Like, everything comes off the rails. And again, by the end of episode 2, my jaw was in my lap again. I'm not going to say this is the best 2 episodes of The Boys I've ever seen. They're not the best 2 episodes I've seen, but these are 2 great episodes, and you can really feel that this is the last season. You really feel, by the way, just brought up A-Train. Again, A-Train has had one of the best character journeys throughout the entire season. Because really, when you think about it, the story of The Boys starts with A-Train. The story of The Boys doesn't really start until A-Train accidentally, but runs right through Huey's girlfriend, starting the events of The Boys. And to watch his character journey him now, and he's terrific in these episodes. Again, we've seen it continue, you know, his journey of where we left off with him in the end of that season. Deep is still the Deep. There's something interesting going on with Black Noir that I can't really put my finger on yet, but it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go with that. Starlight is, again, beautifully portrayed as a character who's gone through the stuff she's gone through. I just love the first 2 episodes, man. I've absolutely loved it. Now, I know you forgot that the episodes dropped.
I didn't. Yeah, I was watching Daredevil.
So where are your expectations right now?
They're off the charts. I mean, I didn't know, you know, I was working, believe it or not, I was working on my novel, and I'm not kidding. And it was late, and I was coming to bed at like midnight. I'm like, oh, new Daredevil on. So I denned up with the dogs and sat down, and which, by the way, was jaw-dropping. But I totally forgot that The Boys was on. Otherwise, I would have come in earlier and watched it. I will be going home from this episode, or today's episode of this show, and watching the episodes right away, because I can't wait.
April 8th, it says right there.
What?
See that?
Okay.
See it?
And we talked about it yesterday. I wasn't.
The funny thing is I had to go on Amazon, and that's the first thing that kind of pops up. I was like, oh, I'll text the guys, you know, hey, you know, it's happening. I'm like, they know. I'm not going to text them.
I was literally, but I did finish my 2nd chapter.
Nice.
Oh, good for you.
So there you go.
I will, by the way, I should throw this out there. One of the great things about The Boys is that all the big cast are great, but the show's always been really strong too, with its minor, quote unquote minor, the more supporting cast. One of the more interesting characters throughout the show that I've always thought has been hilarious is the character of Ashley. She was like second or third in charge at Voight, then she became president of Voight, and when we meet her now, she's vice president in the United States. And they have elevated her in the show. And I've always thought that she's been hilarious.
She's hilarious.
And they have made her the most interesting she's ever been now in this new, I'm not going to say why or how, but again, it was just fantastic. Utterly fantastic. I loved it. I can't wait to see where the rest of the season goes. Guys, question is for you. Did you guys have a chance to see the new episodes of The Boys? If so, what did you think? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we thought it would be a good day today to play ourselves a little game of Overreaction. The way Overreaction works is really quite simple. I jumped on the YouTube channel earlier and I put out a call for submissions for you guys to send us in your hot takes. And then we here in this room would adjudicate and judge you about whether your hot take is an overreaction or not an overreaction. Jonathan's got a few gathered up there. So Jonathan, what do we got up?
All right, Rob, is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Lieutenant John. If Daredevil Born Again continues its current trajectory, it will be the best Disney Plus Marvel show.
I don't think that's an overreaction. I think this second series, the second season of Born Again is quite exceptional. And it seems to be on an upward trajectory. Obviously, I think you and I both agree that WandaVision is our favorite of the Disney shows.
But as of right now, that's a limited series.
Right.
Right?
Right. So I would say that's not an overreaction. I think this season, the 4 episodes so far, there's 9, right? I think there's 9 episodes.
I think it's 9 episodes.
I mean, we got 5 more left. I saw a trailer for the rest of the season. Have you seen the the All Hell Breaks Loose trailer?
Yeah, Jessica Jones referencing her daughter.
I'm like, this looks pretty good.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the new episode of Daredevil a little bit later.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got to say, you're asking us to take a big jump because we don't know how the rest of the season is going to go. You know, Disney Plus shows don't have a problem starting strong.
Right.
It's where they go from here. But listen, we are now 4 episodes through Daredevil. And this season, I'm not going to say it's better than the Netflix stuff, but this season of Daredevil Born Again is on par with the Netflix stuff, I believe. And I liked season 1 of Born Again, but I just thought Born Again was worthy of the Daredevil name, not quite on par with the Netflix stuff, but still really good. This is on par. So following your logic, if it continues its trajectory, then you're only really comparing it to Loki. Because Loki's, I think, the only one so far that's had a season 1 and a season 2, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm forgetting something, let me know. And yeah, I'll say if this continues this trajectory, and if Daredevil season 2 continues to be as good as it's been, I will say it is not an overreaction to say it will be the best Disney Plus Marvel show. All right. What's next?
All right, John, is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Patrick Reese. The Oscars being on YouTube will increase its viewership by more than 25%.
Not an overreaction. You know, when we talked about the Oscars, this year's Oscars, a little bit ago, and it's like, I mentioned that when I was doing my live stream, watching the Oscars, I just couldn't believe how many people were writing. It's like, how do I watch the Oscars? Like, a lot of people don't have cable television anymore. Like, how do I watch the Oscars? And that was a big question. And I think it moving on to YouTube, 25% is a big number. But yeah, I'm going to predict that the first year YouTube is the carrying the Oscars, which I believe is what, 3 years from now, 2029?
I think so. 29.
I believe that first year we're going to see a 25% bump. So I'm going to say it's not, I mean, maybe it'll be a little bit lower, but to say it's going to be a 25% bump, I don't necessarily think that's an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I don't either. I mean, I watched the Oscars on YouTube TV this year. So, I mean, I don't think it's an overreaction at all. You know, I mean, that's the way the world is going. So,
all right. What's next?
All right, Rob, is this an overreaction? When we hear from Sean Brennan, Invincible will end up being the best superhero show, animated or live action of all time.
I'm going to say that's an overreaction. I mean, look, is it good? Yeah. But I don't like to compare live action and animation in terms of maybe this is what would the word be? I'm prejudiced against. I think live action shows are better than animated shows, because of just the amount of time and effort it takes to make them. So I can't go that way. Invincible could be the greatest animated show of all time, but it still won't be better than the greatest live action show of all time. So I'm going to say that's an overreaction. I don't think Invincible's better than The Boys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that line. If you,
it's a dumb line to have. It's a shortcoming I have.
Hey, it's what it is to you. I mean, that's why it's all subjective. Like for me though, I don't really make any distinction. Like one show is, if you ask me two shows, I'll tell you which one I think is better, regardless of whether it's animated or not. That being said, I still think this is a big overreaction. Like you said, Invincible's good.
Yeah.
I don't think it's great. Like season 1 was great.
Yeah.
Season 2 was not good. Like just straight up. It's not just that it wasn't as good as season 1. It was just not good. It actually made me tap out of the show. And it took a lot of people telling me that season 3 was an improvement that made me come back. And they were right. Season 3 was an improvement over season 2. Still not quite as good as season 1. And so far, this season's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. They had one really excellent episode with the second fight between Conquest and Invincible. That was an excellent episode. But then they had the episode where he goes to hell. And then they had listen, I'm somebody who really likes Invincible. I like Invincible. But it's not in the conversation. Like it's not even in the conversation. So I'm going to say that this is an overreaction. All right, what's next?
All right, John, is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Quick. If both The Mandalorian and Grogu and Starfighter underperform at the box office, Lucasfilm Disney will take another break from Star Wars movies.
Big overreaction. Because here's the thing. One of the things that Disney knows, because they went through it with Marvel, is the fact that, let's say Mandalorian and Grogu isn't that good and it underperforms. Okay. But not being very good or being great is a different conversation from whether it underperformed or did well at the box office. And one will affect what the future does and one won't. So let's say Starfighter comes out and, Star Wars is in kind of a wonky place where, general fan belief in the franchise is a little shaky right now, all that kind of stuff. Let's say not all that many people go out to see it, but the people that go to see it love it. That then won't slow Disney down. Because Disney will know if the people who saw it loved it, we can build on that success and go. So even if, let's say Mandalorian and Grogu makes $300 million and Starfighter makes $400 million or $375 million, it's a different conversation if they had those results and people didn't like them, or if they had those results and people loved them. If people love Starfighter, but not a lot of people went to go check it out because they just don't believe in Star Wars that much right now, but people loved it, they'll keep moving. They'll keep the train going in that direction because they know we can build on that and we'll have better results later on at the box office. So I'm going to say that this is an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I think it's an overreaction as well, because I think that these are kind of, they're going to keep making Star Wars movies. Things, even like when the James Bond franchise kind of ebbed and flowed, there was a period of time between License to Kill and GoldenEye, which was 6 years. We didn't get a Bond movie. A lot of it had to do with legal reasons, but still.
Is it bad that whenever I hear GoldenEye, I just instantly think of the video game instead of the movie?
Well, it was a spin-off of the movie.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's all I think about is the game.
Yeah,
which,
and
by the way, at the
now I
time
have
was one of the great video games ever.
And now I have the soundtrack of the video game in my head.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Sorry about that. But I don't think it's an I don't think it's an overreaction. I mean, I think it's an overreaction because they're going to continue to make Star Wars movies. Star Wars movies, regardless, maybe there hasn't been, you can't deny that Force Awakens, the sequel trilogy, the least amount of money was Rise of Skywalker, and that still made $1 billion.
Yeah.
So Star Wars is always going to be lucrative, and especially if it's good.
Now, but to their point, they're asking, after Rise of Skywalker, though, or Rise of Skywalker,
Right.
they took a long break. He's asking if these underperform, will they take another long break, not whether they'll
I
abandon Star
think
Wars.
that the expectation is not that they're going to make $2 billion, though.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
All right. What's next?
The expectation, Mr. Bond, is that you die. Okay.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Is
Gold
this an
digger.
overreaction, Rob, when we hear from William Crook, the Game of Thrones universe is the best universe going on right now?
That's a good question.
it's you know what? It makes me contemplative because the Night of the Seven Kingdoms shows that you can have diversity of storytelling within Westeros and make a great. That show is a great show.
It's a great show.
It's a
man.
great show. And it was a great show. It fit right into the universe. It did not take anything away from Game of Thrones proper or House of the Dragon. But what it did show is the different kinds of stories that are viable in a franchise, which a lot of IPs aren't good at. You know, when they try and move away from their core storytelling. Who would have thought that, yeah, the story of one guy and his young ward or whatever could be just as interesting and compelling as the battles going on in Game of Thrones? But it was. Because, once again, great characters, great story, good heart. So I think, in a way, I don't think it's an overreaction. Because House of the Dragon turned out to be a lot stronger, I think, than most people thought.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at Game of Thrones, really, I mean, you're a big fan of Game of Thrones.
Oh,
So-
huge. Yeah. Love
so
Game
a
of
lot
Thrones.
of people, were disappointed in the final couple of seasons. But even if you were disappointed, it's the rest of Game of Thrones is still really compelling television. So there's been 3 shows that are some of the best programming on TV. So I would say it's not necessarily an overreaction to say it's one of the best universes going.
What makes it tough, what makes this question tough, is that let's say if you compare it to something like the MCU.
Yeah.
The MCU's had like 30 projects in their universe. Game of Thrones has had 3.
Right.
So it is admittedly hard to compare. But I'm going to say this isn't an overreaction.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going to go with that, despite acknowledging the sheer difference in scale, is that despite the fact that the Game of Thrones on-screen universe has had 3 projects, and only 3, they've all been outstanding.
Yeah.
We're talking records that will never be broken, Emmy wins, and then this new, like you said, you go from stuff like House of the Dragon scale about the fate of the whole kingdom, right down to this story about this lowly hedge knight, and just going through the world, and from that perspective, and they made it so infinitely compelling. They're batting 1,000.
Yeah.
Marvel is not. Now, once Game of Thrones has made 12, 13 things, will it? Well, maybe not. But
We can
as
reassess.
as of right now, everything in Game of Thrones has been great. So I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. All right, what's next?
All right, a final overreaction, or possibly it's not an overreaction. We hear from Josh Bendelak, who says Dune 3 will pull the Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and sweep the Oscars clean.
It's an overreaction. Huge overreaction. Look, we've already had, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how much I love Project Hail Mary. I love that movie so much. And, we still have a lot of high profile, major stars, huge filmmakers, all the stuff, their projects coming out, not the least of which, we're going to have something from a little guy named Christopher Nolan called The Odyssey coming out as well. Look, do I think Dune 3 is a serious contender to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards? Yes. But is it going to have anything near even if it wins Best Picture, is it going to have the sheer dominance at the next Oscars that Return of the King did? I'm sorry. I mean, you know how big of a Dune fan I am, but I look at the lineup this year. I just don't see how that's going to be possible. So I'm going to say, no, it is an overreaction to think Dune 3 is going to be a big sweeper when it comes to the Oscars next year. It might win Best Picture, but I just don't see it sweeping up like Return of the King did. Anyway, Rob, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's a total overreaction as well, because the thing is, the Dune films work differently. Like if you look at Lord of the Rings, if we're talking about Return of the King, even though it's an epic fantasy story with all kinds of crazy effects, at the core, those movies are quote unquote very human stories. I mean, they're about friendship, and they're about people. And you know, my friends, you bow to no one. Dune is more of it's a different kind of a film. You don't have the kind of human relationships that you have. It's more of on a broader, Dune is poetry, whereas Return of the King is more novelized human angst and I think they work differently. Cinematically, Dune is one of the most amazing things ever. And it's almost because, like Denis Villeneuve has said, if I could, I wouldn't have anybody talking in my movies. You know, he said that. Whereas the what Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings movies is he took this gigantic fantasy canvas and brought it down to the human emotional level where you're crying by the end of that film. I can carry you, Mr.
Multiple
Frodo.
times.
Yeah, multiple times. It's just a different thing. And I don't think Dune could ever, and this, by the way, it's the flavors are different. So I don't think Dune could ever sweep the Oscars the way you don't have Into the West. You don't have Annie Lennox singing.
That we know of.
Well, that we know of. I mean, but that won an Academy Award, you know, and it's when I hear that song,
Into the
Lay
West.
Down.
I nearly break into tears every time I hear the song.
I hear it. You know, it's on my playlist. I'm just like, I have to stop. And when she cranks up the, you know, I'm just like, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about that song.
What can you see?
I mean, come on,
One's a heroic epic and one's a cautionary tale.
That's
You
true.
know what I mean?
But by the way, I'm seeing some people in live chat saying, yeah, but Lord of the Rings didn't have any competition. Are you stupid? Master and Commander came out that year. Lost in Translation came out that year. Clint Eastwood's Mystic River came out that year.
And
Don't tell me Lord of the Rings didn't have any competition that year. It had stiff competition. So anyway, but so will Dune 3 this year.
Yeah.
A lot of competition.
But I think Dune's just a different kind of movie. I've never seen anything like it. Look, I think Dune is the ultimate example of verisimilitude for science fiction, fantasy, and horror filmmaking that might ever be created. There's nothing like Dune.
Yeah. All right. Guys, that will wrap up today's session of Overreaction. Thank you to everybody who sent in their submissions and their hot takes. Keep your guys' eyes open on the YouTube channel for the next time we put out a call for submissions, and maybe you'll see your hot take get adjudicated here on Overreaction. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Last night was a really damn special night for me. You guys know one of my absolute favorite shows, like truly, truly special. One of the best things I've ever seen on TV. I'll say it. I think Bill Lawrence's best show. I think his best show, Shrinking. They had at the annual Paley Fest last night, they had the cast of Shrinking. And bring this up here, Jonathan. That's a picture I took last night.
Oh, they did Chair Watch. Cool.
Yes, it was Shrinking Chair Watch. So I got to go, Ann and I, who love this show so much, we got to go and watch Bill Lawrence moderate a panel of the cast. But they started off by showing us the entire finale. And I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who deeply, deeply loves this show, the finale of Shrinking last night, for a comedy, was the most uplifting and emotionally beautiful episodes of television I've ever seen.
Wow. Really?
For a comedy. There was not, I won't spoil the ending, but one of the ways that the episode ends is just this conversation between Jason Segel and Harrison Ford's character. And there was not a dry eye in the house. Like I even turned to Ann and I was like it was just one of the most emotionally beautiful episodes of television, of comedy television, that I have ever seen done, while also being rippingly hilarious. And one of the things that Bill Lawrence does really well he did it really great with Ted Lasso, and the best he's ever done with Shrinking is that the show really rewards you as an audience member for watching it. Because like all these jokes and these moments are hitting because we have been with these characters now for 3 seasons. Because we've known their growth and their trials and tribulations and their hardships and their victories and their losses and their pain and their joy. So that when you get, near the end, you get to the season finale of 3, they're doing all these bits of humor and joke and emotional hooks that work because we've been there for the ride. It's if you've never seen Shrinking, jumping into the season finale of 3 is still going to be really good, but you're not going to get half out of it than if you just go back to the beginning and watch it from season 1. And Harrison Ford said it best last night. Harrison Ford, he said, I've never had as much joy doing any project as much as I've done doing this. From Harrison Ford.
Wow.
Who just talked a lot last night about how this has just been the best experience for him. Like doing the show, he's got to play something. And by the way, side note, they ended the evening of Shrinking with Bill Lawrence says, we got a surprise for you. And they brought out Michael J. Fox. He said, my mentor, Michael J. Fox. And they brought out they had to have 2 people help him walk out because you can tell his disease is really progressing. You can tell. But Michael J. Fox was hilarious last night because, they talked, he's like, what made you say yes to coming and doing the show with me? He goes, well, I've played a guy who's had this and I played a guy who's had this, that. And he goes, I didn't have to convince anybody I have Parkinson's because I have Parkinson's. He goes on about it. And then he talks, oh my God, then people start crying again because then he starts talking, Michael J. Fox starts talking to Harrison Ford and because Harrison Ford's character in the show has early stage Parkinson's, right? And Michael J. Fox just talks to him about how special it is, how much he says to Harrison Ford, how much you nail it. Like he said, Michael J. Fox said, Parkinson's isn't your shaking hands and it isn't your slurred speech. It's in your eyes. And he said, when I watch you playing this, you nail that. Like you really, truly express it. It was just a beautiful, beautiful moment. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the Paley Fest. We're here to talk about the show itself. But, one of the great things that I love with shows is shows who know how to do a season finale. Too many shows do a season finale as if it's just the end of another episode. And now you just got to wait another year for the next episode. Really good shows know how to structure their seasons in a way that when you get to the end of a season, you feel like you've crossed a finish line with another race still in front of you to go. That's how you do it. And this was such a beautiful wrap up to the season. Bridges got built, lines got crossed, and you felt like we reached the end of a chapter and now totally wondering where the next chapter is going to go. Guys, I have been a hardcore, and yes, real fan, fuck Parkinson's. I have been an absolute evangelist for this show since it started. I cannot not just recommend, I beg you to go back because they're short seasons.
Yeah.
You can literally blow through all 3 seasons in a weekend. Easy, no problem. I beg you to go back and start watching this show. It's just so I don't think there's ever been a show on television ever in history that has had the balance of hilarity. This is a funny show, man. Like Ann and I laugh our guts out every time. That has that balance of absolute hilarity and real emotional weight and beautiful storytelling all wrapped into one. And, I saw a couple people asking, what's the show about? And I'll say the best way I know how to describe the show is that the basic premise of the show that starts off in season 1 is Jason Segel and his daughter, Alice. He lost his wife 1 year before the show starts. His wife, her mother. And he has not dealt with it well. And he's a therapist. And he works with Harrison Ford, who is his mentor and his boss, and is also a therapist. And it's just all about them navigating tragedy and life while also being one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And yeah, man, I just, it's such a special show. Rob, to me, this is a show that highlights the power television can have. Because, you know, Ann said last night as we were leaving, it was at the Dolby Theater where they hold the Oscars. Ann said to me last night as we were getting into the car at the theater, she said, just watching that show is like therapy. I'm like, it really kind of is. It helps you get through your shit. It's amazing. Anyway, you know, what have you, I can't remember even if you watched this show or not.
I've watched the first season. I just haven't caught back up with it, but I loved it. I mean, I thought that the relationships, again, it's all character stuff. You know, I was going to say that to have, I mean, Harrison Ford and Michael J. Fox really were cemented into pop culture history. I mean, Harrison Ford was starting with Star Wars, but they're both 80s icons. You know, the Indiana Jones franchise started in the 80s and all that thing, all the stuff Harrison Ford did. He played Han Solo again in Empire in 80 and Jedi in 83, and Michael J. Fox with Family Ties, and then establishing his credibility with movies like Back to the Future and The Secret of My Success and Casualties of War. To have the two of them on stage last night must have been,
I was giddy, man. I was just giddy.
Because they're, you know, for 40 years, these guys, or 45 years, they've driven pop culture.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. Are you already a viewer of Shrinking? And did you see the season 3 finale last night? I can't wait to see where they go with season 4. Whatever you guys thought, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. And Canadian Spring, only people who watch the show will get this, is you're right. Everybody needs a Derek. Everybody needs a Derek. Anyway. All right, guys. With that down, just thinking about that show makes me happy. All right, let's move on to this, shall we? It was truly one of the greatest TV watching nights I can ever remember. Because not only did I get to watch a couple episodes, the new episodes of The Boys, I got to watch the season finale of Shrinking. I also got to watch the new episode of Daredevil. Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 4 dropped last night. I watched it when I got home from the Shrinking event. And listen, I saw the first 3 episodes. And if you guys watched the show, you know I said, you know, Season 2 is elevating itself. Like, I really like Season 1, but it wasn't quite on the level of the Netflix stuff. But Season 2, I think so far has been on the level of the Netflix Daredevil. But let's see how it goes. Well, Episode 4 is the next step. Oh my God! I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to start with this show. First of all, they released this scene as a promo, so it's not giving anything away. But the whole episode starts with this big bullseye sequence,
and it's Billy Joel.
New York State of Mind. Yeah, he's putting money in the cup of a homeless guy and going in to get breakfast. I'd like a milkshake, please. Blah blah blah. And then he lures the anti-vigilante squad. He lures them to the diner and proceeds in a very bullseye kind of way to kill them all.
By the way, I don't know if she's appeared. There was a black actress who serves him the banana milkshake.
Who was so good.
I loved her like the most disaffected New York diner. I mean, her face was amazing. Kudos to who got cast that woman. She was great.
I mean, and that's the way they started the episode. It was just, I loved it. And then skipping ahead without going into big spoilers, I might have to do an open spoiler discussion later today. I don't know. But the episode ends with the hardest feeling I ever had of all hell's about to break loose now. Like that's it. Everything changes now. Everything changes.
Dude, the sense of dread that episode left me, because I watch it, like I said, I went in at night, you know, and I usually play these things loud, and I had to turn down the sound.
Yeah, I had to watch it after we got back from Shrinking. So Anne, who has to get up really early in the mornings, she had to go to bed, and I'm like, I'm like trying to find that magic spot on the volume that's loud enough but not so loud that it might wake her up. So I'm like
You gotta get headphones.
And then when the gunshots start, quickly turn the volume down a little bit. Anyway, yeah, I should have just busted out the headphones for it. But like I just when a television show or a movie can get you that visceral feeling of, oh my God, oh damn, oh, like there's a tidal wave coming now. Like, you remember that episode in Paradise where the reporter looks out and sees the tsunami coming? That's what I felt like watching the end of Daredevil episode 4. It's like, everybody's fucked.
Right.
Everybody's fucked. You're fucked. I'm fucked. Everybody is totally screwed now. It was just so good. And again, the way they've progressed through the world, continue to flesh it out, how the governor's involved, how public perception's involved of all the events, like all that kind of stuff. We see we knew this was coming, the rising of the new white tiger. All this stuff was just like so good. It was just so good. And then you have this great quick fight between Bullseye and Daredevil. All I say is a CD is like used so great. And I just, oh my God. And even the scene with Matthew Lillard, even then you're like, oh my God. It's like, what? Oh my God, man. I love this show. I love this show so much. Without giving too much away, Rob, your impressions of Daredevil episode 4 last night.
You're swinging for the fences, but in terms of teeing up, I mean, that even the fight, it's no, Kingpin is in a fight. That fight was brutal. I mean, this episode was.
By the way, they showcased in all the trailers.
Yeah, they
like
show
Kingpin's doing
you also
a boxing match.
Yeah,
right?
you also see him
so
training.
The boxing match happens.
Yeah.
But
my God, the brutality in this episode, starting from what Bullseye was doing to the cops, man. I mean, I was like, oh my God, this episode did not pull any punches. It didn't pull any punches visually, ideologically, emotionally. By the end, I was spent. I'm like, I gotta go to sleep. I loved it. I mean, it's really interesting to me. I keep thinking about the first time we saw Daredevil on Disney Plus was in She-Hulk. And
that's right. Yeah.
And then I'm a very good lawyer, and Spider-Man No Way Home and all that.
I'm a very good lawyer.
Boy, it's certainly like this is as hard as it gets. This is hard hitting. Like,
and by the way, not to mislead, like, yeah, the thing about Bullseye ambushing the task force and the Kingpin boxing fight and all that kind. Yeah. There was visceral action in it. There was great storytelling.
The whole thing. I mean, that's what it's. So this is epic. It feels. I have to say, it feels like I felt when I was reading the original Frank Miller Born Again storyline in the comics, because it got like that visceral. You just shouldn't have signed it. I mean, this is it, man. This feels like reading top tier Daredevil, Frank Miller, Ann Nacinte, Brian Michael Bendis. I mean, it's top tier, dude. This is. It doesn't get any better,
dude. Okay, speaking of the writing, we won't go into the topic, conversation, or context. There's a scene in last night's episode that probably had me more riveted than any other. Vanessa sitting down and just having a conversation with the governor. Simple. Nothing happened. It's just these two women sitting on opposite sides of the desk in two chairs, having a conversation for a bunch of minutes. And I was riveted.
Conversations with that governor, I get so nervous because I'm like, is something bad going to happen to this governor? I get so nervous.
But I mean, it's like they're referencing Greek mythology in their conversation. They're foreshadowing stuff. Like, It was brilliantly written. Like, listen, any 5-year-old can write a script that says, then this guy cuts off that guy's head. Then this guy breaks off this guy's leg. Any 5-year-old can write that. But when you can put in great, visceral, impact kind of violence in with high-level story writing and dialogue and narrative, and you put all that together, you get this Daredevil season.
Right.
It's just been fantastic.
It also makes me think, like, this is in my head. Like, I wish that Secret Invasion
Oh, don't even get me going.
I know, but that in my head because I read the script, I thought it was going to be like that.
So did I.
And it's just like, this is what Marvel. This should be the de rigueur for Marvel shows, And I feel like I have to say, coming off of Wonder Man, which I also thought the writing was really crisp,
so good,
really, really good. If this is the direction, and I can honestly say, I can't say how I know this, but I think that Vision Quest is going to surprise people in terms of its writing, as much as it's totally has nothing to do with either Wonder Man or Daredevil. But I do think that Marvel knows this, and they've really stepped up the writing on these shows, because this second season of Born Again has been like, it's HBO worthy.
Now listen, I've gotten a bunch of criticism over the past few years for how much I've crapped on Marvel, but it's been fair. Marvel has absolutely been up and down, up and down. They've been hit and miss, right? And that's true. I mean, that's a fair thing to say. I don't think I've been unfair to Marvel criticizing them for that. They've had some things that have been great. They've had some things that have been very disappointing. But now with this Daredevil, and we said before, I remember we said this a couple years ago, like once Chapek left and Bob Iger gave Kevin Feige free reign again and gave him back his authority and told them they can cut back how much they're producing, because again, under Chapek, it was produce as much as you can, as fast as you can. We said it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact we get out of that. And right now, I mean, listen, we got to say something we haven't been able to say in years and years and years. Marvel's on a win streak.
Yeah.
Between Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, which I thought Thunderbolts was great. I thought Fantastic Four was quite good. I don't think it was the best MCU.
It also has aged well.
Yes. Yeah, it has. So you had Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Wonder Man, and now this season of Daredevil. And I got to tell you, for the first time since 2019, we can legitimately say they're on a hot streak. And now, next up, Spider-Man. Let's see what happens.
And, I saw Tom Holland giving an interview, and he was talking about how great John Bernthal is.
Actually, yeah, real quick. Not next up. Next up, John Bernthal and the Punisher.
Yeah, but it's kind of being positioned as a bonus episode of Daredevil.
I don't care. It's still content.
I know. I agree. I am looking forward to it.
But I just think it's wild that to have Tom Holland talking about a character that was introduced as a Netflix, as a Netflix character that now becomes a major player in Spider-Man Brand New Day, that Tom Holland is singing his praises, which I love, because this is kind of how I like the universe to gel out, kind of. So then we're getting Spider-Man. People should not. You can get excited. I would tell everybody they should absolutely get excited for Vision Quest, because it's not, I think, what people are going to be expecting, and I think it's going to surprise people in the very best way. And that's sometime in the latter half of the year, Vision Quest. It's pre-Doomsday, and then we're going to get Doomsday.
Yeah,
which everybody. It's interesting. There's a lot of pre-hate out there for Doomsday.
That's a small, loud minority.
That's a very small.
I think Doomsday is going to be a delicious experience.
Wait, does Vision? For some reason, I've had it in my head that Vision Quest comes out in 2027, but it comes out this year, 2026.
This year. I don't know. I don't know if it's been announced. I mean, it's September, October, November.
Fall of 26. So
yeah.
That's all
okay, so it is this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very excited for that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to watch Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 4? I thought it was awesome, man. Awesome. Actually, I think I'm going to go watch it again. I really do. I think I'm going to go, after this show's done, I'm going to go have my late lunch and sit down and watch that episode again. I'm just, so taken with it. Whatever you guys thought about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that all down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do that, we've got to do two things. First, we got to bid good afternoon to writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, my friend. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
I just want to point out there's more great TV this week. The third episode of the 5th season of For All Mankind. It's called Home. And it is not going to, if you're a fan of the show, bring some Kleenex because there's not going to be a dry eye in the house.
By the way, side note, there's some other really good TV. I think Monarch season 2 has been really good.
Really good.
I've been enjoying that a lot. I finally got caught up with the season finale of Paradise. Wow.
Was that insane?
Wow. Yeah, that was great. There's some really good Invincible's had a good season so far. There's some really good stuff going right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk to you tomorrow, Rob. Listen, the other thing we got to do before we get to your live questions, of course, is thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Mando. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Mando. Spring is in the air, and I gotta tell you, I am pumped to get back outside and start using the pool more. But let's be honest, warmer weather also means one thing: sweat. That's why I've been using Mando whole body deodorant, and guys, this stuff is amazing. Now look, I've tried a lot of deodorants over the years, but Mando is different because you can literally use it anywhere. I'm talking pits, chest, feet, even those hard to reach areas. And what surprised me the most is how well it actually works. So for me, what I personally love the most, it doesn't just cover up odor, it actually stops it before it starts. Mando was created by a doctor who saw how normal body odor was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, and they built this to actually solve the problem. It's clinically proven to control odor for up to 72 hours, and I can tell you from using it, it delivers. So here's the deal, guys. Don't just mask it. Mando it. Head to shopmando.com and get 20% off with my code CAMPEA. That's code CAMPEA at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide. Again, go to shopmando.com, use the code CAMPEA, and get 20% off. Support the show and stay fresh out there. Trust me, Mando's got you covered. And thank you to our friends at Mando for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that all down, let's get on to the important stuff, shall we? Your topics and questions. Jonathan, what we got up first?
Milkshake Man says, guys, I told all my friends and Defenders the Defenders were coming back for the Jessica Jones set release. No one believed me. Now with the set releases, I'm still calling it that Elektra and Colleen will be back. I just wish White Tiger was the same age as the team.
I don't agree about Elektra. I don't think Elektra's coming back. I think this will be the one thing that if Elektra does come back, it's going to be a different Elektra.
The way we left her, anyway.
Yeah, I don't think we're, but I really do hope we get Colleen Wing. She was the one really good, like really consistently good thing about that Iron Fist series. I thought she was great in it, and so I certainly hope you're right about that one. All right, what's next?
Sin Vendetta. Hey, John, I know you're excited for the new Harry Potter HBO series, as am I, and I know you said you never read the books before, so I was curious if you were thinking of reading at least the first book for the season airs or go in blind.
Fair question. I don't think so.
Wouldn't go in that blind because the movies still cover a lot of the books.
Yeah, I like at this point, it's not possible to go in blind. You've seen the movies, you know the basic gist, so you can't go in blind. You know, I'll be honest with you, and this is no knock on the books at all. I've never felt the urge to read the Harry Potter books. Never felt the urge. So no, I don't think I will. But I'm telling you what, guys, though, I am getting ludicrously excited for this series. I just thought that trailer was bonkers. And then watching the making of little documentary they put out already, I know this is going to make some people twist their panties up, but I think this series is going to be better than the movies.
What?
I'm not saying it's going to be better than the books because I've never read the books. I'm starting to suspect this series is going to be better than the movies. Anyway, I might be right, it might be wrong. We'll find out. All right, what's next?
We got Sin Vendetta. Sin Vendetta again. Also, if you decide to read the Harry Potter books beforehand, you have the Stephen Fry, Jim Dale, and full cast audiobook editions to choose from, all on Audible. All of them are fantastic to listen through as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, didn't they? I remember last year talking about that. They also lined up this insane cast list.
Yeah.
For the audiobook.
That was a big undertaking.
While I might not go and read the books, I might give that a listen.
Sure.
Which many would say, well, that's like reading the book. I understand. I probably still won't. I'll just wait for the series, but I am tempted to check out that audiobook version because the cast list was insane. All right, what's next?
Orlando Orrego. Hi, John. Been away. I sent a question. I wonder if Avengers Doomsday would move to December 9th date instead. It would give them more time with IMAX. Thoughts?
No, they cannot. For two reasons. Number one, most movies open on a Friday, which really means Thursday night. But, their official release dates are on Friday. Yes, sometimes a movie like Mario will open on a Wednesday because the 9th is a Wednesday. So there's that. But the other reason why that won't happen is because the IMAX screens are already spoken for from the 9th to the 11th. Because I believe it's Narnia films have a 2-week exclusive IMAX run booked. So the way it was is that Narnia was going to take over the IMAX screens on November, I want to say 26th, and then have it for 2 weeks up until Jumanji, which then had a 1-week exclusive IMAX run side, started on December 11th. And then 1 week after that, on December 18th, is when Dune takes over the IMAX screens. Actually, let me see. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can just bring this up quick. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to or not. Let's open up the classroom, shall we? Okay. So let's look at this. The way it was you had Narnia booked until the 11th. Then you had Jumanji booked on the IMAX screens until the 18th of December. And then on the 18th, Dune 3 took over for 3 weeks after that, right? So now, what we know is Jumanji, which was going to open on the 11th, has now moved. It's gone. So as of right now, Narnia ends its IMAX run on the 11th, and right now, nothing has the IMAX screens on the 11th. That's why we're all speculating that Avengers Doomsday will move off the December 18th date and move to the 11th when Narnia ends its run on IMAX screens to take over that IMAX thing. But you're asking, well, why don't they go back even a couple of more days to the 9th? The reason? Right here. Narnia already has the IMAX screens locked up under contract until the 11th. So that's why you won't see Doomsday move to the 9th. It may move to the 11th because as of right now, nobody's got those IMAX screens starting on the 11th, but it won't move any earlier than that because the IMAX screens are already under contract. All right, what's next?
All right. Animish has a 2-part. Making audiences feel deep emotions is already tough in genres like fantasy, superhero, zombie, etc. But shows like Fallout and The Boys raise the bar even further. Their campy, chaotic tone is packed with weirdness, yet in quieter moments they land every emotion with surprising weight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you can get a show that's like bombastic, like, say, The Boys or Fallout or things like that, that can also integrate into them elements that you normally find in dramas, then you can have something really special, right? You can get something like The Last of Us, which is like the world apocalyptic zombie, apocalypse, and yet make it deeply rooted in character and drama and emotion. When you do that, you get shows that get nominated for and win Emmys. And it's really special when they can do that. All right, what's next?
$20 super chat from Ron.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate that, man.
Just joined the ranks of the unemployed today. Apparently, I'm the victim of right sizing, whatever that means. At least my day ended early. I can nug it up and participate in chat guilt-free today. Wait a minute. So are you implying that you did it guilty before?
Oh, hey, listen. Ever since the movie blog days, I've had a lot of people tell me they watch during work. First of all, man, that sucks. I mean, look, we didn't talk about it today, but even Sony today announced they were doing some layoffs. I know Oracle just went through a huge thing of layoffs. Paramount's doing a whole ton of layoffs. It just sucks out there for the job market right now. There's just no way around it. It just sucks for the job market.
100%.
So really sorry to hear about that, man. But we are always grateful to have you as a part of our community, dude. And hopefully we can give you something to smile about and have fun with while you're looking for your next gig, dude. All right, what's next?
Animesh is a 3-parter. While the spotlight is on theaters and films this year feels like a massive win for series. Night of the Nine Kingdoms, The Pit, Wonder Man, Monarch, Shrinking, Invincible, Daredevil have already set the tone, while The Boys, Lanterns, Spider Noir, Vision Quest, House of Dragons, and X-Men 97, Rooster, and many more are lined up with serious potential to dominate and just be amazing. Some great writing out there.
Yeah, man. Listen, the TV this year is always off to a great start. I still haven't started Rooster. That's the new Steve Carell show.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I was listening to, by the way, Amy Poehler's got a great podcast called I think it's called Good Hang, where she just brings in, just every episode, she brings in like some celebrity to hang out with them and just chat for an hour or 45 minutes or whatever. And she had Steve Carell on and they were talking about Rooster. I'm really interested in that show. Steve Carell's last show was not so good. The one where he plays like the general of Space Force. That wasn't so good.
Oh, yeah.
But this one I've heard is really, really good. And I am really actually interested and curious to check it out. Yeah, this year's been really good for TV so far. We got some really good looking stuff still to come. So, hey, man, maybe this is going to be one of those rare years where we have a great year of movies and a great year of television. Off to a good start. All right, what's next?
Tristan, rewatch Superman. It's crazy how Lex spins Clark as a threat for being an outsider to profit from war. It feels ripped from the headlines.
There's a lot of stuff that feel right. You know, especially if you watch like the new episodes of The Boys. It feels like they wrote it exactly for today's environment. But the funny thing is, Kripke, he said this months ago, he actually wrote this season prior to the last presidential election. But it feels like he like literally just wrote it for today. It's always interesting in a lot of movies when you can see not just like the genre stuff, but in a lot of dramas and everything too, when it feels like it's like a movie that feels like, or a show that's being written directly for today. All right, what's next?
Jake Kamara says, here's what I don't get. If Paramount had a backup plan of going after Universal, why overpay for Warner? Universal would be much cheaper than 110 bill.
I'm not convinced it would be cheaper than 110 billion. I'm not convinced of that at all. Plus, the other thing is, you don't get the same IP with Universal. That's why Universal was the backup plan. You do not get the same IP with Universal that you get with Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Like just for an example, DC.
Yeah.
You don't get DC. You don't get their television production. By the way, like, you know, I've been raving about Shrinking. You know, Shrinking is a Warner Brothers show.
Yeah, it's just on Apple.
It's on Apple TV, but it is a Warner Brothers television produced show. They're the ones who make it.
And while I'll say Peacock has really come up from when it first began, it's a really good streamer now. It is not HBO Max.
No, it is not.
It's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying, okay, I'm not even gonna pretend to know cars very well, but it's like, hey, why did you get that MacBook Pro M5 Max when you could have bought this Dell Chromebook for cheaper? Well, because one is clearly more valuable than the others, and if I couldn't get the MacBook, then maybe I would have gone and gotten the Chromebook. But there's a reason that was its backup plan. Because what they see as the value, it wasn't worth $111 billion, but what they see as the value is the assets that it comes with, and Warner Brothers just has better assets than Universal does. So that's why they went after that. All right, what's next?
Rich Review says, after watching the drama, I have to ask, how did John propose, and what is the secret to a lasting marriage?
Sorry, I missed that whole thing.
After watching the drama, I have to ask, how did John propose, and what is the secret to a lasting marriage?
How I proposed is the most dull, boring, unromantic thing ever. The reality is, I didn't really. Like, Anne and I started, when we were getting very, very serious, we started talking about the idea, like, what if we got married? Like, do we think this is where this could be going, and blah, blah, blah. And those conversations just kept happening. And then at some point we were like, well, should we actually set a date? It just kind of became, is like I said, the most tremendously unromantic thing ever. It's just that we talked about it so much that then at some point it's got to the point where it's like, well, then should we actually start thinking about setting a date? It just became, we just understood that we were getting married. Like it started talking about, hey, are we thinking about our future together and blah, blah, blah. And what would that be like? Is that where you're at in your life? Is that where I'm at in my life? And blah, blah, blah. And you just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. And then eventually it was just like, well, then I guess we should set a date. There was no actual real proposal. It just became understood that we wanted to get married. And I'm not saying that's the way anybody else should do it at all. It's just the way it happened for us. I think the secret, and I am no expert, let me be clear. Let me be real clear about that. I think the secret to, well, there's two stages. Secret to a lasting marriage, number one is at the beginning, find somebody you're really compatible with. I think too many people, I think a lot of marriages end because somebody finds a great person that's not necessarily compatible with them in the long term. To me, I just found the yin in my yang. I just found the perfect woman for me. So anyway, there's that. But okay, so after that though, I keep saying this, it sounds like a cliche, but it's communication. Talk. Talk. That means having uncomfortable conversations. You know what? A lot of people, Jonathan, don't believe me because Ann and I have now been married going on 15 years. And people straight up don't believe me when I tell them I can count on one hand, honestly, the number of times in 15 years that we've raised our voices at each other. I'm not kidding. You can have some very, very healthy marriages where every once in a while you yell and scream, you get really mad, you yell and scream at each other. I'm not saying that if you do yell and scream with your partner, that means, oh, no. But I'm just saying people don't believe me when I tell them, I think I can count on one hand in 15 years, the number of times Ann and I have raised our voices at each other. And I think the reason for that is because we never let it get to that point. We will, anything that's like, feels like conflict, we talk about it immediately. And I think we're really good at hearing it from each other's point of view and all that kind of stuff. So like, does that mean we never had any problems? Of course it doesn't. But we absolutely have. Every relationship will. But yeah, we're really good at communicating. And bumps come and problems come and challenges come. But if you're committed to talking all the time, it just makes getting through them a little bit easier, I think. Anyway, that is a totally non-expert perspective. Take it for what it will. All right, what's next?
Another one from Rich Reviews. Over under 50%. We get a fourth Before film, best film series ever. Over under 50% that Linkletter, Unsung Hero Cinema, Hawk, and Delpy will eventually win an Oscar.
I don't know that it's the best film series ever, but it's an underappreciated one. The Sunset films.
Yeah. Sunrise, Sunset, Before Midnight.
Sunset, Handsome Hawk. I'm going to say under 50% because somebody still has to pay for it. And I don't know if it makes money. But I'm saying under 50. I'm not saying under 10%. And I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see one. Of course I'd watch the next one. They're just an incredible series of films. But I would say under 50% would be my guess.
Do you think Hawk will ever snatch? I think he'll snatch an Oscar at some point.
Yeah, he's just too good.
Yeah.
He's too good. And he's still way young enough to still have another 20 years doing this at a high level. So yeah. I think he'll get one.
We got Tristan. The Super Mario Galaxy movie felt like the Nintendo Avengers. Hopefully they didn't pay Donald Glover millions to say Yoshi, like Vin Diesel Groot vibes.
Yeah. That's such a great example. For many years, one of my gripes with animated films today in Hollywood is this perceived need to get big Hollywood names to do the voices in animated films. Donald Glover doing the voice of Yoshi did not add one single extra ticket to the sales. And the reason it irritates me is because you would have better movies if you went out and got people who specifically trained for years, specifically in the art of voice acting. Somebody like a Chris Carr, you know, to go out and like, why go out and get some big, huge thing? Now, listen, there have been a couple of examples where it has still been a match made in heaven. You know, can anybody imagine Shrek without it being the voice of Mike Myers? Of course not. I'm not saying there's no time it should ever happen, but it's like Hollywood forgot that there are these professionals who do voice acting better than the big movie stars do, and that maybe you should use them for most of your roles. I'm not saying never have a big celebrity do a voice role. I'm not saying that, but it's like, to the point that even Yoshi has to be Donald Glover. And I love Donald Glover. I love me some Gambino, but
He didn't need to be Yoshi.
it didn't, like, what was the point of having him as the voice of Yoshi? Like, what was the point of that?
And if you're telling me it's like, oh, because he bolstered like the press route, it's like,
Most of
really?
the press didn't even know it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
Jeff, I find that shows like The Boys are defined by their antagonists, and Homelander is perfection.
Look, some people will tell you that any good story is kind of defined by its antagonist.
Because it's the challenge to the hero.
Like, yeah, I mean, usually the antagonist is the thing that sets the whole hero's journey in motion. Whether it's, Gordon Gekko, or whether it's Hannibal Lecter, or whether it's like whoever else or whatever else. Your villain is often the character that defines the story itself, because they're often the thing that sets off the story to be in motion. That certainly is no different than in the terms of something like The Boys. It's just so happens that a story like The Boys leans more into your villain, Homelander, than most others do, and they do it extremely well. Like, Homelander's always been such a great character. All right, what's next?
Final three here. Dante, which trilogy do you think will end up being better, Dune or Spider-Verse? To me, it's a draw right now, because I think Dune 1 is better than Spider-Verse 1, but I think Spider 2 is better than Dune 2.
Okay, I'm reversed. I think Spider-Verse 1 is better than Dune 1. Like, they're both wildly fantastic.
And they both got better as they went.
Yes. But I would say that as good as I think Dune 1 is, and it's great, I think Spider-Verse 1 was better than Dune 1. But I think Dune 2 is the best film I've seen in the last 10 years. Straight up. I just think it's the singular best movie made in the last 10 years. As much as I love the second Spider-Verse film, it's all going to depend on the third films for both.
Yeah.
It's all going to depend on the third films for both. My guess is that it'll be Dune. That's my guess. Because, the third Spider-Verse film has had a lot of behind-the-scenes drama and nightmares getting to where they are now. The movie's already long overdue. They missed their release dates a couple of times, all the behind-the-scenes drama with the animators and all that kind of stuff. So my guess is it's going to be Dune, but it could be the first two Spider-Verse films. Again, I think the first two Spider-Verse films are animation, live action, doesn't matter. They are the two best Spider-Man movies ever made. The three best Spider-Man movies ever made are the two Spider-Verse films and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. They're all Sony movies. But we'll see what happens with the third one. It's going to be really interesting to see. All right, what's next?
Cassidy Kelly, I can't wait for the X-Men. I really think fans are more excited for X-Men more than Avengers. I really hope Storm is Jamie Lawson from Sinners.
I will definitively tell you you're wrong. Not that I'm not saying it's wrong to be more excited for X-Men than for Avengers, but there's no reality in which the general movie-going audience is more excited for X-Men than they are for Avengers.
Because right now it's still theoretical. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know where, who the actors are.
We've had lots of X-Men movies not do great at the box office. So no, like this isn't an opinion thing. The general movie-going audience is not 1/3 as excited about the new X-Men as they are about an Avengers film. Not at all. Data shows that. I mean, that's just clear. Now, that's not to say after we get past these Avengers films, depending how they set up the X-Men, that X-Men may not eventually surpass it for sure. It's just they're definitely not nowhere near there right yet. Nowhere near there right yet.
And certainly on the horizon, it's the most beyond event. Well, because then we still have Secret Wars, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like once we get past Secret Wars,
Yes.
then the conversation changes.
Yeah.
Right? Then we start looking to, can they build off of what they're ever doing in Secret Wars? And do they set up the X-Men in such a way that there's going to be a lot of excitement built? Because remember, they're coming off of some failed X-Men films, right? X-Men, like, look, it's not that there weren't any redeeming qualities about the X-Men Phoenix film they did. I can't remember. What was the name of the movie? What was the actual title of the movie? But there were some good things about it. Like, I thought the train fight scene was awesome. I really do. I think that train fight scene was incredible. But it, it wasn't great. X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
But it was not great. And it didn't do well at the box office.
Yeah.
X-Men Apocalypse had some good things in it, but overall not great and didn't do great at the box office. So it's going to have some hurdles to overcome, and it's going to have some baggage that it's going to have to deal with. But if the new X-Men or if the new Avengers movies can set them up well, it'll go a long way into overcoming those obstacles. So we'll see where we end up with.
And then our final is AL. What's more likely in the next 15 years, a Marvel DC crossover film or a Mario Sonic movie crossover?
Marvel DC crossover movies never going to happen. So you can just throw that off the table. There's just too many legal things to go in. But John, they did it in the comics. It's so much easier to do in the comics. It's such a nothing burger to do it with the comics. With the movies, totally different thing. Cost them $20,000 to make a comic. Cost them $300 million to make a movie. And it won't happen. I mean, never say never. And maybe even you can get an animated special. But a Mario Sonic thing, I could totally see a couple studios making a deal to do that.
You could.
I wouldn't be like, is it likely? No. But is it within the realm of believability? Yeah. I think it is within the realm of believability that they could make that happen. Whereas the Marvel DC thing, just take that off the table right now. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. A big thanks, of course, to Robert Meyer Burnett, to our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
My name's John Campea, guys. Thanks so much for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.